Thursday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good day. Browns with a Players' Day off in Berea today, getting ready for a Monday night game against the Denver Broncos. Jameis Winston will be the starter for that. Has made 4 starts so far for the Browns, and he's beaten both the Steelers and the Ravens in the same season. First time in a while, Browns quarterback has done that. Winston also getting his first chance to start in the NFL in a few years, and he may very well be earning himself a shot to be a starting quarterback next year. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi with his opinion about that one.
I think the better he plays, the better chance he has of really competing for a starting job elsewhere. And I say elsewhere because his price tag is going to go up. He's not going to give the Browns a quote hometown discount,
right?
Like he did this year. He didn't have any leverage last year. Nobody wanted him but the Browns, and he hadn't started in 2 or 3 years. So he may be playing himself out of their price range because of the Deshaun Watson salary cap.
Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Lance, that's a valid point. There's going to be a number of teams that are going to need quarterbacks, that are going to take young guys that are looking at them as developmental guys. There isn't a guy that's a slam dunk number 1 quarterback from the college ranks. So Jameis Winston, if he plays well, could be earning himself a decent amount of money. And with the Browns having Deshaun's contract, he could price himself out of the Browns' price range.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. The thing that the more you watch this week, I was really impressed with the Browns. They kind of went back to what they do at 12 personnel, 13 personnel, things that make him really successful. They did a really nice job on TJ Watt. They did some really good things this week, and Jameis is part of that. Now, Jameis brings great energy. We talked about before he was a starter, his ability to practice well. He's incredibly upbeat. He's, what you see is what you get with Jameis, and he's an interesting character, but he plays with a lot of emotion. And I've said it since he got here. If he can protect the football, he can make all the throws. He's incredibly intelligent. He reads defenses very well. He almost relies on his arm too much. But he's a guy who's very talented. He's a guy the Browns, if they're not moving forward with Deshaun Watson and you don't know what they're thinking, this guy fits, especially if they're going to run what Stefanski likes. This guy fits just like Joe Flacco fits. So we'll see what happens, but he could be pricing himself out. But this is a good fit for what the Browns want to do.
Along those lines, this is kind of interesting. This is from PFF. Since week 7, Jameis Winston ranks as PFF's 5th best quarterback behind Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. Jack Duffin from the Orange and Brown Report tweeting that out. Those numbers don't, that's PFF grades, so it's not like it's team sanctioned. Those are independent guys grading the quarterbacks. And you see that, and you kind of scratch your head with, Jameis Winston.
Well, when you watch the game, you see a lot of things they do. So first of all, they ran the ball a little bit better. Not great, not like they want to, but they had some effective runs. They had some quality runs. But what I really like what they did is how they set up play action and how they got the ball out of his hands quickly and how they did different things with TJ Watt. They got rid of the ball quickly. They double teamed him. They chipped him. They did a lot. They ran at him. They did play action at him where they showed a run and then had play action off that. So they did a lot of really good things. They set him up for success. The only way that Jameis Winston gets in trouble, in my opinion, is when you drop him back 45 times a game and have him at the same launch point so those elite pass rushers can get to him. They didn't do that. They changed the launch point. They changed the pass protection. I thought Conklin did a great job on Watt. I thought Kevin Stefanski and Dorsey did a great job of game planning. And again, when you're game planning for the team and not necessarily for a player, and that's what Deshaun Watson is. When he came here, I know he hasn't played well, but he's been elite. And I appreciate Kevin Stefanski trying to design his offense around a guy who comes in as elite. He hasn't played that way. So he's had to go back to what he does very successfully, and you're seeing the end result. You're getting a guy who's taking what they give him, taking his checkdowns, and if Jameis Winston can protect the football, he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and we've kind of talked around it. When he gets into trouble is when he believes too much in that arm, and he's got plenty of. His arm talent is probably still as good as there is, and it gets them into trouble sometimes.
Well, if you look at the throw to Judy, the one over the top where he scrambled to his right and threw it over the top, that's Jameis in a nutshell, right? So if you look at that play, that defender's right there. He throws a great catchable ball where only Judy can get it. If that ball's 6 inches lower, that's an interception. So you get what you get with Jameis Winston. Now, I think with Kevin and Dorsey, they can kind of break him down a little bit. And you saw him check the ball down a little bit better this week. And I've said it all the time. If the right quarterback guy gets with him, it's not really, you can't change Jameis Winston. You can just say, hey, listen, look how good you can be. Take these chances. You just don't have to take them all the time. 3rd and long, Jameis Winston takes a lot of chances on 3rd and long. That's not the time to take a chance because they're playing coverage. So I just think Kevin Stefanski, he's done a really good job of taking all the blame. You got to give some credit where credit's due too. And this has a lot to do with Kevin Stefanski and how they went into this game and the game plan that they designed for Jameis Winston to be successful. So very impressed with what they did as an offensive staff.
The other thing that's been apparent, the wide receivers have played significantly better with Jameis Winston at quarterback, and one in particular, Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy Thursday against the Steelers caught all 6 of his targets, 85 yards, 4th straight game, 70-plus yards receiving. 2 crucial first down catches. One was on 3rd down, one was on 4th down. He's been outstanding with Jameis Winston.
Well, the thing about Jerry Jeudy's a very good route runner. I still want to see, I'm not sure if Jerry Jeudy's a true number 1, but you don't necessarily need a true number 1 if you have 3 guys that are pretty good, in my opinion. And I don't know if they can go out and get a number 1 unless they're going to take him with their first pick, which I still think they need an easy yards guy. You and I have talked about easy yards for years, but Jerry Jeudy's very good. He's very good. He's a very good route runner. But what you get with Jameis Winston is you get on time, and you're never going to get the elite improvise, keep plays alive, and the Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson before he got here. Those guys, Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to get that. But you're going to get, if you run a good route and you understand coverage, Jameis Winston's going to hit you, and that's what you're getting out of these receivers. They're running very good routes, and they're getting the ball when they're open based on what they see. This is not about getting one guy open. This is about a design against coverages, and different guys will come open against different coverages, and Jameis Winston's doing that right now. And they're not worried about who's getting the credit, how many times they have to throw it or run it. They're looking to win, and that's what you're seeing right now. That's what you saw against the Steelers, just a very balanced offense that made plays when they need to.
So this is from the Bleacher Report, every team's biggest needs entering Week 13. For the Browns, number 1, quarterback, I agree. Number 2, wide receiver, I agree. Number 3, left tackle, I agree. You might even flip-flop those. Linebacker and interior defender, I'm not there quite yet with them. I like Diabate. I want to know more about JOK's injury. We'll get to that in a minute. Still no update. Spoiler alert there. Interior defenders, I think Mike Hall can play. If I know he's done for the year. I'm not seeing the need at linebacker and interior defender. They need the offense needs an injection of talent in it.
There's no question about it. So I actually don't think it's the quarterback position either. Because I think Kevin Stefanski has proven he can win with a guy who can play within his system at the NFL level. If you look at Bo Nix, who they're playing with Sean Payton, the ability to get these guys to play at a higher level maybe than they're coming out of college, what people think they can. What they need is they need a guy like Burden out of Missouri, a guy who can catch the ball, go, and make easy yards, a guy you don't have to block everything right for. Get the ball in space. A guy great, Jamar Chase style, right? Can get you the ball, get him the ball, and he can make a play without everything having to be right. Again, the Browns have been in this thing for a couple of years now where they have to go on these 10, 12 play drives that have to be perfect because they don't have that guy that can simply take the ball and go. So I think you're right. I think talent is the issue. And I'm not sure if it's a receiver or a running back. If you look at what they do with Tua down in Miami, they need a space guy, a guy who can get the ball in space, get easy yards, and get it to second short. They have not had that in a while, and I think that's where they need to head.
Yeah, and I agree because that will set up a Jerry Jeudy and a David Njoku to be even better because the defense has to pay attention to the space guy. Jermaine Ifedi started at left tackle against the Steelers, and for the most part he was fine. There were a couple plays where he showed up. Jedrick Wills unable to go again. Kevin Stefanski asked for an update on Wills earlier this week.
He's trying. Just, he's going to keep doing everything he can to try to make it to the games. Just not ready yet.
Sign that he's at least able to practice?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. It's like all these injuries. You have to treat the symptoms, treat how the guy feels, and he is doing everything he can. It's just it's not responding just yet, but hopeful that it does.
In the time span, do you think the prospects look good of him being able to play?
I think any time you have extra days, it helps dealing with any injuries, but you have to treat the injury.
And Lance, it's got to be frustrating. Clearly, they thought that Wills would be back sooner, and he just hadn't been able to go.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you look at Jedrick Wills from a different angle, so if you look at Jedrick Wills as a swing tackle, a guy who could play both right and left because of his athletic ability, then I think Jedrick Wills gives you a lot of bang for your buck, in my opinion. Now, how much you signed him for, that's none of my, that's out of my realm. I don't really get into that. I go into guys' ability to play on film. And Jedrick Wills, if he's a third tackle, he's struggled as a starting tackle. He has not been as consistent as people would like. And I think DeJuan Jones, if he can get himself into great shape this year, he comes back after, and then you go with Conklin at the right tackle, and then you have Jed Wills maybe as a swing tackle. Maybe that's the route you go. If you look, tackles are really hard to come by. Jed Wills is a guy who's got talent, and hopefully they can get something out of him moving forward. He's fighting for his life, so it tells me he's hurt because he knows that Browns are, they have other tackles that they're looking at right now. So Jed Wills definitely wants to get back in there and see what he can do for his future.
Lance Reisland and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, film breakdown video analysis of how the Browns beat the Steelers. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
I just picked up all the Ohio Lottery holiday scratch-offs.
They're multiplying.
Yeah, multiplying. With the chance to multiply my prize by 200 times with holiday bonus millions.
No, they're multiplying.
Oh, you're in a daze.
A holidays.
Snap out of it. Because even if we don't win instantly, all the holiday games offer a second chance to win up to 1,000 times the price of the ticket.
Wait, did you say up to 1,000 times?
Sure did.
We continue talking Browns with Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Time for a film breakdown video analysis. 3 keys that led to that Browns victory over the Steelers. Number 1, defense was gap sound and aggressive. Take us through that, Lance.
You got the Browns, like, for example, they're trying to run a split zone here. Harris does a great job tackling for a loss. Then you're going to see, what I really like is you see the depth. Then you're going to see, again, a tackle for a loss. But what I want you to see is all these guys running to the football. That's what the Browns have been, kind of reckless chaos, organized chaos. That's what you got. And then obviously you get a third medium, then you got a good pass rush, and you got, they continue to push the pile backwards. And what I liked about the Browns is that the Browns kind of went back to what they do, and that was all because they were playing complementary football. The Browns, when they're at their best, are gap penetrating. They're in man coverage. I think they need to start moving Ward on the best guy. I know I've talked about that before. Put Ward on the best guy, play deep, play with 10, let him pick the best player and go from there. It's something they could do with Cam Sutton this week against the Broncos. I don't know. I just really like what I saw out of the Browns in terms of their, a lot of people get on them for their dancing, and that stuff really doesn't bother me if you're playing at a high level. But when you see the Browns, they're best when they're downhill, they're aggressive, there's lots of hats to the ball, they outnumber you with numbers in the box. Very impressed. I think this is what they brought to the Steelers. They brought the fight to the Steelers. The Steelers didn't bring the fight to them.
Yeah, and as we saw, Juan Thornhill showed up as well. He kind of forced things back and really probably played his best game for the Browns in that game. Number 2 in the 3 keys that led to that Browns victory over the Steelers. Elite plan for T.J. Watt. And really, we didn't hear T.J. Watt's name called very much at all. So take us through what you saw with the Browns defending Watt.
So what you get here, first thing you're going to get is when they set up, the ball comes out fast. So Watt's at the bottom here, ball comes out fast on a seam route against one high hat. Really good read by Winston. Very impressed with his ability to get rid of the football quickly. Now, what they did against Watt is they did a number of things. One is they got the ball out quick. Next thing they did was they chipped it. Next thing they did was they changed the launch point. So T.J. Watt's at his best when that quarterback is 5 to 10 yards right behind the center. They did a great job of mixing that up. And when they did drop back, they got rid of the ball quickly. So, again, this was, Kevin Stefanski takes a lot of heat, and you should as a head coach. But you also got to call it like you see it. I think you brought up a good point with Thornhill. When these guys were criticized, they owned it, and they moved forward. Thornhill played well, and they had a great plan for T.J. Watt. And I think Kevin Stefanski is an awesome play designer, and this is what I mean by play design. You take the best player out. How you do that is you take away his strength. T.J. Watt's strength is rushing that quarterback when that quarterback's 8 to 10 yards deep. Great job by Kevin Stefanski. They were ready to roll. They were on point with what their plan was, and they executed at a very high level all night.
Yeah, and again, the one thing I kind of was wondering is, man, where's this offensive line play that we saw against the Steelers? It was the offensive line play, which I've been really critical of, was pretty good against a very good Pittsburgh defense.
Well, because you had quality runs, right? So the only thing that Browns get in the habit of, and Dorsey gets in the habit of, he did this in Buffalo as well, and I think that's what, caused him some trouble in Buffalo, is that they're better when they're not just pass setting, right? So you're selling run on play action, which means you're selling run first. That means the defense has to play run first. So they're just not pinning their ears back, being a wide around the edge and pass rushing. And that's when the Browns are at their best. They changed up formations. They ran some 13 personnel. They ran some 13 personnel with an extra tackle in the game. Done. They ran some 12 personnel. They did a lot of different things that make you play defense honestly. And what that means is you're just not pass rushing. Now, that means you played good defense, so you don't have to throw the ball every time to catch up. There's some things. It all ties together in football. You punt the ball well. You kick the ball well. You do all those things. And when you do those things, you don't have to drop back and allow these elite pass rushers just to pass rush. Browns had a great plan. They executed.
All right, so the other thing, the third key that led to that victory against the Steelers Thursday night, the emergence of Jerry Jeudy, a guy that they went out and traded for, and he's looked better with Jameis Winston at quarterback. What'd you see with Jeudy?
Well, you've seen an outside guy here. So what I liked about Jeudy is that his ability to make plays. So this is Winston getting outside the pocket. This is the play I was talking about. Great catch. High points the ball, great ball skills, big first down there. Then you're going to see a great route coming up here by Njoku. Njoku's going to push that corner off, little rub route. Again, they trust in Jeudy to get that first down. That was a big first down. What I like about Jeudy, if you can get a space guy, I think Elijah Moore is a really good player. I think he's can be not necessarily a 1, but a high 2. They have guys who are really good receivers. If they can get an inside guy who can just take the cap off, whether it's a running back, a receiver, they just need a space guy. But Jeudy really emerged as a route runner, as a guy that can count on. And again, Jameis plays very well with these guys who know where they're going to be. Judy's a really good route runner. I thought he did a great job. I was very impressed with his routes, very impressed with his run after catch, ability to make plays in space, his ball skills. Did a really, really nice job. I think you saw what the Browns saw in Jerry Jeudy when they signed him and extended him. Yeah,
the other thing that comes to mind, especially that catch that you're looking at there, he's made a couple of really nice catches. He's shown better hands than I thought. I know contact at the point of the catch is a thing with him, but he's made a couple of really nice catches. Lance Reisland and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, talk a little bit about the quarterback position and some reports nationally. Sports4CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Albert Breer, national reporter, has been reporting for a couple of days that after Watson gets healthy, if he's able to play, the Browns are likely to bring in real competition for him at the quarterback position, meaning via draft or free agency. So I guess the question that comes to mind for me, Lance. I'm curious what you think. How easy or how tough of a sell do you think it would be to a veteran quarterback if you're going to say, hey, come in and compete with a guy that we are going to pay a boatload of money to?
Well, I don't think it's very realistic at all, if you ask my true opinion. However, I will say this. If Deshaun Watson, in his defense, if he comes back, his whole struggle has been the idea that they have tried to make everything for him. And I understand that, and I appreciate that, because you win with players, and you do everything you can to adjust. I don't care if it's high school, college, or pro. You do everything you can to try to adjust what you do offensively to the players around you. Now, Deshaun Watson has really struggled with that. I think Deshaun Watson can be very good in this system if he decides that he's going to run Kevin Stefanski's system. And if you're going to keep Kevin Stefanski as your head football coach, then you let Kevin Stefanski do what he does best. And you can see when Kevin Stefanski is able to run his play action and his multiple personnel groups and all the stuff we've talked about forever, then he can be pretty solid. If they're not, and they're going to try to make it worth Watson, everything for Watson, then I think it's very unrealistic. If you say that I'm going to bring in a guy and we're going to run this, we're going to run our play action, we're going to run Stefanski's offense, then I think other guys can compete with him. The guy who's probably the best is the guy who they have right now. That's Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and along that point, Albert Breer in that report also said, barring something catastrophic, he is hearing from his sources, and he's got a lot of them, that both Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry will be back with the Browns next year. All right, so the question becomes, who are the free agent quarterbacks? PFF has a list. Here's who is on that list. Darnold and Fields, the top two. Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, who is with the Browns, Mariota, Rudolph, Dalton, Flacco, Stidham, Huntley. I'm kind of with you. If you're looking at that list, you know what Jameis Winston is. That one makes a lot of sense.
And I'm a big fan of Justin Fields. And if Justin Fields wasn't a running quarterback, because the Browns, Kevin seems to really struggle with that athletic type of quarterback. I think Sam Darnold's another great fit. A guy who's a system guy. Once again, that gives a negative connotation like a game manager. That's not what it is at all. Kevin Stefanski has his system, and it's very, very good. And it's been very successful, and it got him a head coaching job. Guys like Justin Fields don't really fit that. Guys like Watson have struggled to fit in that scheme. Guys like Sam Darnold can't. If it's it's really, really funny. But when you look at the Browns offense, right, when Deshaun Watson's the quarterback, it's what can we make? How can we make this work for Deshaun Watson? Which is what you should do as a coordinator, as a head coach. When he's not in there, the Browns go back to what do we got to do to win? And there's a big difference. And I know that's how Kevin Stefanski coaches. And I just think there's guys out there that are a little bit better. Now, if Deshaun Watson can get in there, and I'll be honest with you, I think Deshaun Watson can run that offense. If they decide, hey, we're going to run what we run, and you're good enough to do it, he's shown that ability. So we'll see what happens. Sam Darnold's a good fit for me, but if you're talking about where they're going to bring in some competition and they're going to run Kevin's stuff, then I think Winston's the guy.
And it's going to be, again, keep in mind, they're going to be on the hook for $40-some million in salary cap space with Watson. Even if they push it back, I don't want to get into the math of it because math is boring. No offense to the teacher that I am talking to right now. But for this purpose, math is boring. They're not going to be able to pay a guy a whole lot of money, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. The other thing, and we kind of touched on this, the Browns wide receiving core has been better without Winston. I don't think many people would argue with that. And you kind of answered this in a previous segment. I don't see a number one on that, on that staff, on their wide receiving core. So the question becomes, do you really need one? And if a guy that we've talked about, if they're picking, say they're picking 7 or 8 or 9, not quite near the top of the draft, but in that top 10 range, do you look at a wide receiver?
I say yes. So my number one guy right now, and I'm just getting started. I'm about 25 receivers in, but the Bergen kid out of Missouri is a perfect fit for what the Browns need. He's not only my number one receiver, he's my number one space guy. So I try to break the receivers down into the one outside. Well, I think they have a number one receiver is kind of misleading. I think they have an outside guy. I think they have multiple outside guys. They have Judy. They have Elijah Moore. They have Sed Tillman, big guy. So they have guys at the outside position. What they need is a space guy inside who can also play outside. The Jamar Chase, you can pitch the ball to. You can do a bunch of different stuff with. You're really not. They need a positionless guy who needs the ball in his hand. And for me, that's Burden, the kid out of Missouri. So yeah, I would go that route because you need, like you said, you need an influx in talent. And you need to make this offense easier so it doesn't have to be 10, 12 plays every time.
All right, so here's a look at the free agent wide receivers if they do not go route of drafting somebody high. Higgins is interesting. He's going to get a lot of money. Godwin's coming off a fractured ankle. Not sure about that one. Cooper, we've seen that. Diggs is injured. Hopkins is getting up there. Johnson's been a disappointment. I'm looking at that, and Higgins is really the only one that intrigues me. I don't know if they, again, if you're paying a quarterback $46 million or whatever it is, are you going to be able to pay a wide receiver of that ilk $30 million or $28 million or whatever it's going to cost?
Well, Higgins gives you a lot of what I think at a higher level right now, obviously, but he gives you a lot of what Seth Tillman's going to give you in terms of the length, the height, the red zone ability. Now, he runs better after catch, I think, right now than Seth Tillman, though I think Seth Tillman's come a long way and can be very good if he has a consistent quarterback, a guy who's with him all the time. But no, none of those other guys. I think the guys they need are these guys in college. And the reason you can do that now is because these guys in college come from pass-happy programs that throw the ball. They also run a lot of pro concepts now, a lot of pro routes. So, like I said, Burden kid, there's a kid out of Arizona. There's a bunch of guys out there, but I don't really think they need an outside guy or an inside guy. They need a guy who can just do whatever they need talent-wise. A guy who, Percy Harvin, if you look back through the years, guys who can do things regardless of where they're at. That's what the Browns need. They need a guy who can simply take the ball and go score.
They have not used, they've used under Andrew Berry, so let's preface it with that. Haven't used a first or second round pick on a wide receiver. They've used 2 third-round picks, Tillman 1, Schwartz, who they were going for speed, and it just didn't work out. When you look at what you think they address first couple of rounds, what positions you think they're looking at that need upgrades from the draft?
Well, obviously, you got to start. One thing is, whether you like it or not, Bitonio and the interior guys are fantastic when they're getting up there. So you got to start looking for some interior linemen, even down the road, just because those guys are getting older, not because of their has dropped. But obviously, I think it's receiver. They might need Hicks, depending on what happens with Hicks, but they need a thumper at linebacker, a bigger guy, that would be helpful. I love the Peyton Wilson last year. I think he's a guy who fits the scheme well. So a bigger guy who can really, really run at linebacker. Safety-wise, McLeod's going to be done depending on what they do with Thornhill, though I was very impressed. I'm with you on Thornhill. I thought he played great the other day. What are their thoughts at corner and safety? I think Newsome has struggled a little bit. Emerson struggled a little bit, but they seem to really be honed in on their ability to get corners and what they're looking for in their corners with a Schwartz defense. So for me, it would be playmakers, running backs, receivers, those flex tight ends who can play inside and out. They need an influx of talent skill-wise on offense. And I would go, if I stayed in the first round and I was the Browns and I had a top 10 pick, then I'm taking the best skill player who's left, whoever I think. And I'm not looking for a guy who's with all the numbers. I think the Steelers have shown that. You need a guy who's productive. I don't care how big, fast, strong, whatever he is. I know he has to be certain numbers. I need a guy who's productive with all those measurables.
Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to take one more time out. Other side of the break, 3 keys to a victory on Monday night against the Denver Broncos. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I just picked up all the Ohio Lottery holiday scratch-offs.
They're multiplying.
Yeah, multiplying. With the chance to multiply my prize by 200 times with holiday bonus millions.
No, they're multiplying.
Oh, you're in a daze.
A holidays.
Snap out of it, because even if we don't win instantly, all the holiday games offer a second chance to win up to 1,000 times the price of the ticket.
Wait, did you say up to 1,000 times?
Sure did.
We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE with Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Time to take a look at 3 keys to beating the Broncos. And the first one you have deals with their rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, who's played pretty well. So take us through Bo Nix and what you see with him.
Well, Bo Nix can make all the throws. So first thing you do is you got to pressure him, right? So the Ravens here, who got after him pretty good in Week 9, they did a really good job of pressuring with multiple different looks. If you don't pressure him, he can make all the throws. So again, you're going to see, and he holds the ball as good as he's been, and he's been really, really good. He's still a rookie, so they got to get after him, because if you don't, you can see right here what happens. He's very good against the Raiders. He can make all the throws. This is an NFL seam route that he hits before the safety. So again, if you look at the first two, you got to pressure him. You got to get him off his mark. I think, you need to make sure that you're mixing up your coverages. You need to make sure that you're mixing up your fronts, your blitzes. Put a lot on his plate mentally so he's not playing as fast, right? A rookie needs to slow down because the game is so fast. So if they don't do that, he's good enough to beat him. And obviously, Sean Payton has shown his ability to work with quarterbacks. Browns need to pressure him. You don't, obviously, with everything legal, but he needs to be on his back and hit so they know he knows when he drops back, there's a chance he's going to be on the ground.
Yeah, and Bo Nix took full advantage of his college eligibility, played a lot of college football. So, he's seen a lot. But, yeah, we'll see that he's playing really well. All right, number 2, keys to beating the Denver Broncos. Power run game. Take us through what you see here and what you're looking at.
Well, you're going to see just a couple versions of power here, where you're going to see they're going to kick out with the fullback, the Ravens. You're going to see it right here, a good close look here. Kick out with the fullback, and then the backside guard wraps in for the play side linebacker, the number 1 linebacker to the call. And they do a really good job of running this over and over to the tight end, away from the tight end, and you're going to see just tons of movement up inside. I think Denver's front is very good. They're very active. They move very well, but I think you can run directly at them. And what that does is, that, again, just like last week, it allows the Browns to be balanced, and it doesn't allow the pressure just to, those defense linemen to pin their ears back. So they gave up a ton of rushing yards to Derrick Henry. They did very well last week, but they still gave up 5 yards of rush to the Raiders last week. And I think the Browns' run game is coming along, especially with quality runs. So on early downs, look for the Browns to run or run play action, which will help in their pass protection instead of just dropping back. So first down, I look for them to run to power or pull that guard and run pass protection that looks like run. So I think if they can run it, they'll set everything else up and make for a pretty productive day on offense.
So you see Derrick Henry and the Broncos 7-5 on the year, so they kind of are playing better than most people expected them to. Number 3, and this one will be interesting. Courtland Sutton is having himself another really good season. Big wide receiver, big physical wide receiver. So you say Ward on Sutton. Take us through what you think in terms of that matchup.
Well, Ward has been so impressive to me this year, and his ability, I think he's doing a really good job of keeping his nose out of there. He doesn't need to. And you can see Sutton. Sutton's a guy who can line up in multiple spots. He's a guy who's big. He's fast. He's strong. He's good at all 3 points that I like when I grade a receiver. He's great at releases with his strength. He's very good at the catch point, very strong hands. And he's pretty solid run after catch. His least ability is run after catch, but he's a true number 1 when it comes to that length. So, everybody wants to go with Emerson because of Emerson's length. I have not seen a long receiver have success against Ward 2 with Ward's feet. So for me, I would play with 10. I would make sure Ward follows Sutton everywhere all over the field, and everybody else make the other receivers beat them. Make them run the ball. They don't run the ball very well. They're relying a lot on Nix, a lot on Sutton. I think the Browns got to take Sutton out with Ward, and then I think they match up very well with everybody else on the Denver Bronco offense.
When you look at the Broncos offense, you kind of touched on it. They've got 3 running backs, and they're kind of searching. It seems like every game the distribution of carries gets shuffled between Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, a rookie, and Jaleel McLaughlin.
Well, McLaughlin's a kid who was at Notre Dame College. I actually saw him play a number of years ago because I had a kid at Finley. Very good. Estime is a big back out of Notre Dame. I know Tim Bielek was really high on him last year during our draft pod. So both really good players, both just not number 1 tailbacks at this point in time. They rely on a lot on Bo Nix, but I tell you what they really rely on. They rely on Sean Payton. So when you look at their offense, depending on what back, do they want more of a power guy, more of a guy out of the backfield? Sean Payton's done such a good job. He's such a good offense coordinator at making it very QB friendly, and that includes getting backside the backfield, taking checkdowns, finding matchups, etc. So more than just the run game, it's just Payton's ability to find matchups and scheme to what he wants.
When you look at Nix, what have you seen from him on tape as a rookie?
Well, you're right. He's a guy who played, 518 games in college, it feels like, right? He played forever at Auburn. He played forever at Oregon. It was just amazing how many years he played. But he's a guy that really it wasn't super high on at Auburn, but then I was really impressed at Oregon. I thought he did a great job in that scheme. I was wondering how that would carry over. But I'll tell you what it's done is that it's kind of eliminated that rookie kind of he's an older guy, right? So he comes in with a lot of experience. He comes in that Bill Parcells of having a number of starts that give you success at the NFL level, which is really something I look at now as well. Regardless of your talent, you have to see the different fronts, the different coverages, the different talent. And playing at Oregon, obviously it's not the NFL. Playing at Oregon and Auburn, he's seen the highest level of college talent that he can see. So he's seen all the fronts, all the coverages. He's seen everything that you can see because of his experience at the college level. And I think that's really helped him. And then he gets in with Sean Payton. That really helps him understand fronts and coverages at the NFL level, and you've seen the success. They don't set him up for failure, but he is in charge, and he's the reason they're successful on offense. So the Browns really have to, my first point, they really have to pressure him, get him off his spot, make him uncomfortable.
Have you seen him kind of take the reins? Like it looked like early in the year they were throwing a lot of very short passes, and that's kind of expanded, and Sutton is really kind of getting incorporated now as well.
Yeah, he does a great job. So if they can't run the ball, that's kind of a little bit overrated with Peyton, because he's gonna use that extended run game, the quick hitches, the slants, the arrows, the bubble screens, etc. So they'll do some extended run game, like I like to call it. So it's a really easy throw for the quarterback. But yeah, that he builds confidence through the game, and then they start working those verticals. And he's had to do it because they haven't had much run game. But they have to crowd a line of scrimmage because they like to throw that short game so much. And that goes back to Peyton when he had Drew Brees. Get the ball out of your hands quickly, very rhythmic, very systematic, 1, 2, 3 with the reads, balls out. So, yeah, I think he's gotten a lot of confidence with himself, and I think his head coaches give him that confidence.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. 3 keys to beating the Broncos Monday night film breakdown video analysis. Always does a great job with the film breakdowns and video analysis for cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers. Ethan Sands, Cavs beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Straight ahead, Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, improved to 17-1 on the year with a 122-108 win over Toronto last time out. Sunday's win, the Cavs become just the 9th team in NBA history to start out 17-1 on the year. They're 10-0 at home. Kenny Atkinson, new head coach, was asked, is he surprised by the 17-1 start?
Yes. He just said 17-1. I was like, wow. It's just... I haven't been in this league 17 years, and it's like, it just doesn't happen, right? You're just, you should have 6, 7 losses, 5 losses. You could be 500 at this point. So, and even a game like tonight, you lose these games easy, right? Like Toronto's a darn good team. They play hard. We're not exactly on top of our game, and we still come up with a W. It's pretty kind of shocking, like where we are.
With that, let's welcome in Ethan Sands, Cavs beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. even the unstated part of it is it's a new system, and they're still kind of incorporating everybody and getting the feel for it, and still they're finding a way to win 17 out of 18.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that is continuously finding ways to win games in different ways. And that's what makes this stretch even more incredible, because you think about how even though they might be playing teams that they should be beating, they're beating them in different ways. Even Kenny Atkinson said in that press conference last night that he hasn't incorporated his entire offense yet. This is about 70% of the offense that he wants to incorporate throughout the season, and it's because they haven't had a lot of break. This was their first time that they got to practice before the Toronto Raptors game since the beginning of the season. Not to mention that they didn't even really work on their pet sets, the things that they're going to go to in the fourth quarter that they like to use. More so, they focused on what happens when things go wrong and how to fix those problems or find solutions to when those things get blown up, because opposing defenses are going to know what you're good at, what you're going to go to. Instead, it's more so, how do you fix anything that comes to being blown up, right? Because defenses are going to try to do that. And we saw that even in Donovan Mitchell's game winner against the Milwaukee Bucks a couple weeks ago. So to continue to see this team winning in different kind of ways, Jared Allen also said it last night. Yes, he's surprised. Yes, he's surprised by the record. He's not surprised by the way that they're getting W's.
So the other thing that, was made a big deal of, you got to find a way to unlock Evan Mobley. Mobley looks pretty good. I know you wrote an article that if they're going to harness Mobley and use him the way they want to in the playoffs, they kind of got to lean on him now. So take us through that article and kind of your thought behind it.
Yeah, I mean, when this was going on, this comes to the Boston Celtics game where he is having a tear of a game. He's being able to assert his will. I believe he had 13 or 14 points alone in the third quarter, and then he doesn't touch the ball or doesn't get to attempt a field goal throughout the entire fourth quarter. Obviously, that tells you how the game ends up, because they end up losing that game. That's their one blemish on their record. And Kenny Atkinson took it to his chest, said it to his own, that it was his fault for not working to get him the ball more. So obviously, I wrote that story as a column after the Boston Celtics game and followed up with Kenny Atkinson afterwards, talking about how the Cavs, how important that is for them going forward. Because for me, it's not about him succeeding all that much. It's about him dealing with staggering or stumbling, because you're not always going to have that success, but you have to be able to have the opportunities to face those, especially when it's in late game scenarios, high pressure times, when you're in the fourth quarter and you're being called on, because we understand that this is a team that is going to call on Evan Mobley a lot, and especially coming down the stretch. So the very next game, they said, okay, you didn't get the ball to end the fourth quarter. We're going to run a play to start the game for you, and we're going to make sure that you get your looks. So obviously Kenny Atkinson used that and said that after the very next game. I want to see that continued when they face against high-level competition, where Evan Mobley is going to have to face these guys or these teams in high-pressure situations, potentially in the playoffs later into the year. Because this is not about right now, right? We want the Cavs to bank wins, all those good things. But it's about creating habits that they can take to April, May, and June.
So another guy that really has kind of done probably more than people expected, Ty Jerome. I remember missed all but 2 games last year with injury. These are his last 4. 24 points against Charlotte on the 17th, 10 points against Boston 19th, 29 against the Pelicans the following night, 26 yesterday, or Sunday rather, against the Toronto Raptors. So this is the first time in his career with back-to-back 20-point games. Jerome talked about the Cavs' win over the Raptors back on Sunday, as well as why he's playing so well with this group.
I just think how Ev and J.A. came out in the second half defensively. just a testament to who they are. They're the backbone of our defense. We go as they go, and they were great. To come out second half, just put the game away. They took a big step.
Well, I'm sure they'd have a lot to say about your first half, setting a new career high, then extending that in the second half with 29. Why are you so comfortable with this team?
You know, look to my right, I see the MVP and Donovan. I look behind me, I see Evan, J.A. It's like, it just frees me up to go be myself.
Ethan, I kind of thought he would be pretty good when they signed him last year and then he didn't get to play. I don't think anybody saw the offense that he's providing coming. It's shocking. I mean, I knew who he was when they signed him. Not many people did. I didn't know he was quite as talented offensively as he has been.
And you're not the only one. Kenny Atkinson was surprised by his scoring acumen. And Kenny Atkinson coached Ty Jerome in Golden State. And he's come in and he's been like, this is a completely new player, because he was known and is known coming into the season as a pass-first player. So the scoring acumen that you've seen is something that has evolved into a new player, and it's created a new layer to what the Cavs can do, the creativity level that they can run. And it's made it so difficult for this Cavs coaching staff, because Kenny Atkinson said it last night. It's hard to take him off the court because of what he's been able to do with the ball in his hands, how cerebral he is, how intense he plays. And then you mentioned the offensive end, and he's played great. He's found ways to pass the ball, facilitate, score, whatever the game is called for. Ty Jerome has been able to do it. But then you look on the defensive end, and he had a career-high 4 steals against a strong, burly Toronto Raptors team last night. So you can't take away from what he's doing as an overall game. It's a bounce-back year, obviously, because he only played 2 games last season. But every time he gets asked that question, he says, I'm not really worried about that. I'm worried about the next game and doing the stuff behind the scenes to make sure that I can continue doing that. Recovery, health, all those different things that Kenny Atkinson has also said that he's been one of the best at when it comes to behind the scenes, off the court stuff, to make sure that he can continue this run rather than showing people what he's doing right now. Because again, it's early into the season, and as good as these games have been, they don't count as much as the games that are going to lead into the playoffs.
So when you look at it, and I know you've addressed this on the Wine and Gold Talk podcast, you think he's playing himself into a new contract?
My goodness. I mean, it's going to be so hard for them not to, because you talk about it's difficult because of his contract structure, right? And that's a lot of nerdy stuff that I don't feel like getting into on this show. But Ty Jerome is indubitably playing himself into a new contract, or at least showing the entire league his value, because obviously I don't think he's played a season of more than 60 games to his career. And he's a veteran in the league now. So to show this in a new season with a new team and in a new coaching staff, it shows how he can be implemented into different systems as well. So it's not only showing the market that he's creating for himself in an offseason wherein his contract is coming to a close in Cleveland, but it also allows the Cleveland Cavaliers to understand his value, his worth, and how he's going to impact them as they try to create and go towards their championship aspirations. Because if you look at all the players that are out right now, Karis LeVert, Dean Wade, and I know we're going to get into those guys later into the show, but Ty Jerome is a guy that can sub in. We saw it last night. He played the 3 alongside Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. I don't believe that the Cavs are going to start him. I think they like him coming off the bench and adding a punch and being able to ignite the crowd and wherever he is. But I think Ty Jerome is definitely a guy that the Cavs will want to keep around long term, especially if Kenny Atkinson can keep this role going with this group.
Ethan Sands, Cavs beat reporter from Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear from Donovan Mitchell. Also talk about the back-to-backs coming up that the Cavs have with the Hawks. Sports4CLE, talking Cavs. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Cavs with Ethan Sands, Cavs beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Donovan Mitchell has been doing a little bit of everything and doing it well during the Cavs start. Was asked if he saw this start coming for the team.
I won't say I came into camp thinking it would be 17-1, but I saw this, the way we're playing, as it was going to happen. Just a matter of when. I think that's what's least surprising, because I knew we could get to this level of play. And sometimes, when you have a younger group, but I mean, obviously we've been together, but it takes time, you know what I mean? But for us, it's clicking right away, and now you kind of screw yourself, because now it's like, this is where we got to be at, like you kind of put that pressure on ourselves, and this is what we are, you know what I mean? This is our floor, and this is the beginning of the year. We by April, we should be better, 10 times better than what we are now. That's why I think, to answer your question, no, did I think we'd be 17-1, but I saw this as the potential, that we can definitely get to, and now that we're here, we have to stay here. We're obviously going to have lapses and things like that, but how do we continue to build off of this? But I had no doubt that we'd beat this team. It's just a matter of when, and it's great to start out 17-1 for sure.
Ethan, when you look at it, what have you seen from Mitchell through the first 18 games? It seems like whatever's needed to get wins, he's doing.
I think he's been able to get off the ball more. Like, you talk about his minute allocation, which is completely different from what it had been. He's averaging 31.2 minutes per game, and in his first 2 seasons in Cleveland, he was nearly at 36, right? So you talk about having more energy, more burst, being able to know when you're going to the bench, when you're coming off the bench, so you can have the adequate rest, or while you're on the court, put in the adequate work, because when I think his biggest key factor for what he's been able to do this season is sensing the moment, is being able to know when it's time. And Ty Jerome called it last night, because he, as you heard in the video earlier, he called him the MVP, and he said, you got to know when it's Donovan time. When it's Donovan Mitchell time to be Donovan Mitchell, right? And we create space, we get out of the way, we do all these different things. And lately, that's been in the fourth quarter, because you understand that throughout the game, you feel out what the team needs, you get your assist offs, you get some scoring acumen, right? In the first quarter, he usually starts the trend of getting off to a fast start, all these different things. But when it comes time to the fourth quarter, are you up by double digits? Is it a close game? Are you trailing? What does the team need, and what do you need from Donovan Mitchell, your star, your franchise face? And the ability to sense what the team needs is what his biggest strength has been coming into the season. And obviously, you talk about the shooting overall. He's shooting 41% from three-point range, 47% from the field. He's efficient. It's one of the most efficient seasons of his career. And that is only a little bit of what he's been able to do, because you talk about how he's uplifted and empowered all the players around him. If you get the ball passed to you by Donovan Mitchell, and then you pass it back and he says, no, you go, your turn, it's your turn to go. That is the only way to continue to empower your guys on the court, rather than having a conversation. Like, there's a different mentality, a different mindset, a different teamwork that has been implemented in this season, and it's been led by Kenny Atkinson and Donovan Mitchell. And that's the biggest part, is getting everybody else involved while being able to get yours when needed.
So another guy that has, quite frankly, kind of taken his offense to another level is Isaac Okoro. And here's some numbers that bear it out. 17 of 33, 51.5% on wide open three-pointers. He is shooting 47.4 from three-point range in general. And again, this was a guy that you questioned his ability to knock down that three when he was open, and he's worked it. It's because he has saw what his deficiency was, and now has turned it into a strength, quite honestly.
I mean, he's worked so hard on his three-pointer since he got to Cleveland, right? His efficiency has grown every single season if you look at his career stats. And when you talk about a guy that every time I walk into practice, I know where Isaac Okoro is going to be. He's going to be on the closest court to the media. He's going to be working on his three ball in that corner, in both of those corners, because that's where he knows he's going to be. But sure, all of these things are great, right? And we understand that his playoff numbers last year, especially against the Boston Celtics, were horrid. But if you are able to grow to this capacity and you continue to do this, it adds another wrinkle to the Cavs offense because no longer will teams be able to sag off him. No longer will teams be able to disrespect him, and that'll create other opportunities for the players around him. That's why Kenny Atkinson is also using him as a screener, as a roller, as somebody that rolls into the half roll, into the painted area, or flies out into a shot as well. So you get different actions from Kenny Atkinson using Isaac Okoro in different ways, which is added confidence to his game because he's not just stuck in that corner. Sure, that's where he knows he's got to make his bread and butter on the offensive end, but you also understand how good he is on the defensive end. He locked up R.J. Barrett last night. He had an inefficient game because he was being guarded by Isaac Okoro. And if you are able to get this guy to play as a 3-and-D player, especially after he signed that smaller contract that you needed him to get into this offseason, it's an opportunity for him to show what his value, again, that word value comes up, what he is worth to this Cavs organization if he can turn himself into a true 3-and-D player. And I hate to keep saying this, Dave, but the importance is in the playoffs. It is great what he is doing. It is great how he has grown throughout the season, throughout his career as a three-point shooter. But it all doesn't matter unless it continues in the playoffs.
So now that the Cavs have a couple days off, they'll play Wednesday, so it's a Wednesday, Friday, home and home with the Hawks. So Wednesday, they play Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Friday, in Atlanta. Team still does, they're not 100%. Strus hasn't played at all. Wade has been out. LeVert has been banged up. It's kind of, what happens to the minute allocation when everybody's healthy? It's a great problem to have. They've got guys that can play.
It's going to make things even more difficult than they already are on this rotation, right? Because depending on when Max Strus comes back, because we know that this Saturday they're going to have him reevaluated, and we'll get a full update on where he's at. But Kenny Atkinson said during last night that he still ways away from being ready. And that's a different wrinkle to what the Cavs have going on because he was their projected starting small forward. You've played with and tinkered with Isaac and Dean Wade and all these different guys at the starting small forward position because of what you've needed to do. But when Max Strus comes back, what does he bring to this offense? Because obviously he's still been in the gym with them, implementing different things, learning, becoming a student of the game. But it's completely different when you get on the floor. He still hasn't done any contact, and it's almost a week out until his reevaluation period. So it looks to me that he's going to be out a little bit longer than maybe expected. But that also means that the Cavs have more time to work him in during practices because, like we talked about, the 17 games in the first 29 games was a grueling stretch. Now they have 17 games in 40 days or 43 days if they don't play in the NBA Cup final, 40 days if they do. And obviously the Atlanta Hawks game, I believe it's on Friday, is an NBA Cup game. So these are different things that we have to think about. Dean Wade, I've talked about this since the end of last season. If Dean Wade is healthy, this Cavs team is an automatic championship contender because of what he can bring on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively, especially when you talk about guarding wings such as, and everybody compares them to, the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, all these different guys that are bigger, stronger, burlier, like to get down into the paint, but Dean Wade can also guard on the perimeter. something else that Max Strus can do as well. He was tasked with guarding Jason Tatum in the Eastern Conference semifinal series last year. So it's different when you talk about these different guys, but I feel like it's going to make it, and we've talked about this already on this show, Kenny Atkinson has struggled to find different rotations with these players like Ty Jerome and Karis LeVert and all these different guys that have shown themselves to have great starts to the season. So when these other guys that he plans to play that are supposed to be a part of his 12-man rotation, it's going to be even more interesting to see what he ends up doing.
Yeah, and you know what? Every coach in the NBA will sign up for those problems. It's never a problem to have too many players. When you don't have enough, those are the kind of problems that keep coaches up at night trying to figure out. Ethan Sands, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Ethan.
Thank you for having me.
Ethan Sands, make sure you check him out. Cavs beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Always really good and insightful coverage of the Cavaliers. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.